The rain that held us. In the quiet town of Willow Creek, nestled in a valley where the hills hug the sky, the air always carried a faint scent of pine and damp earth. It was late summer, and the days were long, warm, and heavy with the promise of change. The townsfolk moved slowly, their lives woven into the rhythm of the seasons. Among them was Irina Petrova, a woman with silver-streaked hair and eyes that held stories of a life well lived. She ran a small bakery on Main Street, where the smell of fresh bread greeted anyone who passed by. Her hands, dusted with flour, kneaded dough each morning as she hummed old Russian lullabies her mother once sang. Irina's bakery was more than a shop, it was a haven. Locals gathered there, sipping coffee, sharing gossip, and finding comfort in the familiar. But lately, the skies had grown restless. Dark clouds rolled in, heavy and unyielding, casting shadows over the valley. The radio crackled warnings of storms, severe ones, they said, with flooding that could swallow roads and homes. Irina listened, her heart uneasy, but she kept the ovens warm and the door open. People needed her bread, her warmth, especially now. The problem came softly at first, like a whisper. Rain began to fall, a steady drizzle that tapped against the bakery's windows. By evening, it grew louder, more insistent, drumming on the roof like impatient fingers. The creek behind the town, usually gentle, swelled and churned, its waters muddy and wild. Irina watched from her shop as the street turned slick, reflecting the dim glow of streetlights. Customers stopped coming. The town felt hushed, holding its breath. Irina wasn't alone in her worry. Her neighbor, Mikhail Ivanov, a quiet man with a weathered face and a knack for fixing things, stopped by to check on her. "Irina," he said, his voice low and steady, "the creek's rising fast. They say it might flood the bridge." She nodded, her hands twisting a dish towel. The bridge was the town's lifeline, connecting Willow Creek to the outside world. If it went under, they'd be cut off, groceries, medicine, help, all out of reach. That night, the rain didn't stop. It poured, relentless, turning the streets into rivers. Irina stayed in the bakery, unwilling to leave her life's work to the mercy of the storm. She lit candles when the power flickered, their soft glow dancing on the walls. Outside, the wind howled, and the creek roared like an angry beast. She thought of her childhood in a small Russian village, where rains like this had once washed away her family's garden. She'd been a girl then, helpless. Now, she refused to feel that way again. By morning, the town was transformed. Water lapped at doorsteps, and mud coated everything. Irina stepped outside, her boots sinking into the sludge. The bridge was gone, swallowed by the creek's fury. Her heart sank, but she squared her shoulders. She wasn't alone. Mikhail appeared, his coat soaked, carrying a toolbox. "We'll manage," he said simply. Together, they checked on neighbors, wading through ankle-deep water to deliver bread and share news. The town was battered, but its people were stubborn. Then came the twist, gentle but surprising. As Irina and Mikhail knocked on doors, they found something unexpected, kindness blooming in the chaos. Old Mrs. Larson, who rarely spoke to anyone, invited them in for tea. Young Dmitry Volkov, the town's troublemaker, was hauling sandbags to protect homes. Even the children, usually restless, were helping, carrying buckets to clear debris. The storm had stripped away the ordinary, revealing the heart of Willow Creek, people who cared, who showed up when it mattered. Irina felt a warmth in her chest, despite the cold rain soaking her clothes. She and Mikhail worked through the day, their hands busy, their voices soft. They spoke of small things, memories of better days, dreams they'd tucked away. Mikhail admitted he'd always wanted to build a boat, something to sail on quiet waters. Irina laughed, confessing she'd once dreamed of opening a bakery by the sea. The storm raged on, but their words built a bridge of their own, connecting them in a way they hadn't expected. Days passed, and the rain began to ease. The creek, still swollen, calmed enough for the town to breathe. Help arrived, trucks with supplies, volunteers from nearby towns. The bridge would take weeks to rebuild, but Willow Creek was already mending. Irina's bakery became the heart of the recovery. She baked extra loaves, giving them away to anyone who stopped by. Mikhail fixed broken shutters and patched leaks, his toolbox always at his side. The town gathered in her shop, sharing stories of the flood, laughing and crying in equal measure. One evening, as the sun broke through the clouds for the first time in days, Irina stood outside her bakery, watching the light paint the wet streets gold. Mikhail joined her, his hands in his pockets. "We made it through," he said, his voice quiet but sure. Irina nodded, her eyes tracing the horizon. The storm had taken much, homes, possessions, the bridge, but it had given something too. It had reminded them of their strength, their togetherness. Irina thought of her mother's lullabies, the ones she'd hummed through the worst of the storm. They were songs of hope, of enduring. She felt her mother's presence now, in the stillness after the rain. "We'll rebuild," she said, her voice steady. "And maybe we'll build something better." Mikhail smiled, a rare softness in his eyes. "Maybe a boat," he said, and they both laughed, the sound carrying over the valley. The town would heal, slowly, like the creek finding its rhythm again. Irina returned to her ovens, Mikhail to his tools. The bakery's lights glowed into the night, a beacon for anyone who needed it. Willow Creek was bruised but unbroken, held together by hands that reached out, by hearts that refused to let go. And as the stars emerged above the quiet valley, Irina knew they'd face whatever came next, together.